Coming up in this episode of Wealth Magazine Business Access, Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange Group, shares with us about how her formative years were balanced with play, moral building activities, and learning the principles of business from her parents. Street Forrest also recounts her professional pursuits, citing her work in many different industries over the years, among them her short-lived stint at farming and her passion for building the Jamaican economy by advancing the work of the JSE.
The stock exchange is a way to grow wealth individually and for the country at large. The stock market is not for rich people. It is a market for all of us. This is another form of investing, and everyone can look at investing in the stock market. My name is Marlene Street Forrest, Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange Group. I'm the Managing Director of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, and originally I am from Portland. I attended the Titchfield High School. I'm passionate about my high school. I was brought up in business, and I'm so passionate about my country so that I want to see businesses expand and grow and for our country to do better. As I said before, I'm from Portland, and my parents were business people. And so as a child growing up from a babe, we were in the business. We had to work very hard within the business, emulating our parents who actually worked very hard. And so from an early age, I can remember us writing receipts, fitting up a kerosene stove, actually making those covers for mattresses, stuffing them. And so we learned to be industrious. And we recognize also that with everything that we got, the reward that we got was based on the work that we put in. We recognize that our parents loved us, but as a family, but that we had to also be involved in whatever they did. So from a young child, we worked. We did not consider it child labor, because we recognize that it was instilling that sort of discipline in us that was necessary and has served me well in my adult life. I was the youngest of 3 girls in the household, and we had fun playing. We played all sorts of games, snake and ladder, etc., and played with my parents. We rode bicycles to school and back, up the hill, down the hill. And my mother was very attentive. So in the evenings or before bedtime, she would read books for us. My father, attentive, but my mother was more so. My childhood was not always very happy in some respect, because my father was an albino, and sometimes persons were never always kind to that situation. You were always ridiculed about color, and so you had to live with that as a child. It is something that, in terms of the society, need to get a grip of in terms of how you deal with people with differences and how you embrace people with differences. The moral compass was very important for my parents. We were taken to church, and when we became older, we were sent to church. So it was quite a fun from that standpoint growing up. It was not probably as funny as for other children because, as I indicated to you before, we worked. So some of the times when other children, you saw them out playing, we were in the business place, and my parents had haberdashery, hardware, and so we were there working. My father had skittle tables and jukeboxes that were all over Port Antonio, and we had to go and clear them. We listened to the record. The good thing about it is that you knew almost every song that came out within that era because you punched them and you played them. So there was a mixture. There were days that when you did not get the pocket money because business was not good. So again, that taught you that it's not all the while that you're going to have. And there were times when business overall was not good, and those were lean years, and you had to live with that. But it gave you the sense of balance that most children need to have nowadays. I started prep school at 2.5. So I was at school very early and went on to the primary level where everyone did the common entrance and was successful in common entrance and went to Titchfield High School. And that is the premier high school in Portland, in Port Antonio. The interesting thing is that most persons, if they go to high school and they go to sixth form, it is 7 years. But I spent 6 years in high school as I did my A-levels in 1 year. When you are in business, like my family, I had 2 older sisters growing up, and they were both in college. And sometimes business is good, sometimes it's not. And at that point, I made a decision at sixth form that I had to do my A-levels in 1 year, and then was successful in the A-levels, and went on to teach. Obviously, that's a pre-trained teacher. I taught at a high school. For the next year, I taught at Port Maria High and taught many subjects. And I am happy to say, very proud too, that the children were also successful, those that were in fifth form in their subjects. Then I went on to the University of the West Indies to do a Bachelor of Science in Management Studies. University life was interesting, though I did not live on, because by this time I was married. I got married very early. The course of study was good. I actually got an honors degree, graduated with an honors degree from the University of the West Indies. Met many friends there. Some of them are still friends today. My mandate at the JSU really is to use cutting-edge technology to develop the market. One of the things that we looked at was the creation of the junior market. Well, we all know that that has been extremely successful. We have seen an increase in persons investing in the market from about 2%, and now we are about 7% or so, which is good. When I left university, though it was a time when it was difficult to get jobs, because that was in the 80s, and that's early 80s, and there was always the upheaval in the economy. Through again one of my friends on campus, I was able to get a job at the income tax department. She was working there at that time. And I went as a tax auditor. I audited companies, and it was a very, very good experience. You were told what to do, you explained, while persons say a lot of negative about government. I did not experience that at income tax department then. I experienced professional persons working, understanding what to do, treating the entire work that they had as a very, very serious. I left there and I went on to Jamaica Public Service. So I've been around. I went to Jamaica Public Service as internal auditor, and there the experience was also good. The persons that you worked with, you interacted with, were always very much concerned about your growth. And after that, I went to Caribbean Cement Company. And if there is a defining moment in terms of my work world, was Caribbean Cement Company. And under the watchful eye of the managing director then, called Mr. Compton Rodney, and he mentored me. And so I've had very positive experience with men. He mentored me, he showed me how to behave in a professional manner, and took interest in your career and your growth. That's a mentor. He was a very, very good mentor. And, I have not yet seen another like him in terms of how he mentored not only me, but others. We were always given books, additional books to read, to ensure that we kept abreast with current happenings. And so the experience there as a cost accountant was very good. I left Cement Company and I went on to Xerox. So I've been around. And I went there as their chief accountant. And again, positive experience. So there is the sort of span of the career. I went abroad for some time, came back to Jamaica, and I worked with JBC as their chief accountant, and spent some time there. Again, the focus was always what can you bring to the table that is positive. And their financials were, in terms of audit, were behind. And the one drive that I had was in ensuring that it was up to date. And by the time I left their financial statements were up to date. I think I left with that division being positive and went on to the Jamaica Observer. I was asked at the point when I was leaving, going to a company that was a startup, even if it had big monies behind it. As you know, it was owned by Butch Stewart and others. Why would you take that risk? But if you believe that you can make a difference, you'll take the risk. And I went to the Observer as a financial controller and left there as the assistant general manager. After leaving the Observer, I went on to work with the government again, Southeast Regional Health Authority. And I also went into farming. I went into farming because I felt that I had a passion for growing things, and I wanted to see how I could make a difference in this area. I did my analysis, and it was deficient because I did not factor in predial larceny. And so all the financials came out positive, and it would have been a positive experience, except that thieves got the better of my farm. And until the government does something serious about that, I think that agriculture can be an area for serious growth in the country. And not only growth from the standpoint of financial growth, but also in terms of social. When you are interacting with that soil, it gives you different warmer feelings to even your fellow men. So it is important that we look back at how we treat with agriculture. But I left because it would not pay the bills, naturally. And as I said, I went to Southeast Regional Authority and then on to the Jamaica Stock Exchange, where I went as the Deputy General Manager with the focus on finance. My mandate at the JSE really is to use cutting-edge technology to develop the market, because the Jamaica Stock Exchange, what it does is operates different markets, and the idea is to ensure that in the operation of the trading of stocks over a market, or the encouragement of persons to come and do what is called initial public offering or list on the exchange, the mandate is to ensure that you have a transparent and efficient market. So one is about the technology, but the other is about people. So that continues to be my mandate. And so we have put in during my tenure, a little before I came, and during that period, the electronic trading platform, and that has worked well. We have had the Jamaica Central Securities Depository that does the settlement of those transactions. And at one point during my tenure at the Stock Exchange, I was also the General Manager for the Jamaica Central Securities Depository. The idea, though, is how do you use that powerful medium to grow the economy, to make life easier for investors and also for businesses that want to access capital. And we had the main market, as you know, and one of the things that we looked at was the creation of the junior market. Well, we all know that that has been extremely successful, and that persons have bought onto the idea, both from the level of the persons, the issuers, the persons who come to market to raise funds, and the investors. So many persons now have started to invest in equity, just as other countries around the world, especially developed countries, and I'm happy about that. So we have seen an increase in persons investing in the market from about 2%, and now we are about 7 or so percent, which is good. When you go into an organization, get to know who you are working with, get to understand them, and so also that they can understand you, because people will make the difference. The stock exchange is a way to grow wealth individually and for the country at large. So the other thing that we looked at is how do you ensure that 10 years from now you do not have the same problem that we had, in that older persons are just understanding about the market. So I'm happy and I'm proud about the stock market game that is within probably over 50 schools, high schools in Jamaica, because what that does is create that knowledge that you are not starting from base one anymore, but those students will now come out and understand that the stock market is not for rich people. That's something that I'm really just passionate about, that people know that this is not a market for rich people. It is a market for all of us. This is another form of investing, and everyone can look at investing in the stock market. So we looked at the stock market game, and in order to ensure that the perception was positive during my tenure, we board the decision, but during that time we did what is called move the company from a mutual company to a demutualized company, meaning it's not mutual again. The ownership of the exchange and the decision making, the regulatory, those are separated. so persons know that this company is transparent, and the decisions that are made are not made from a personal basis, but the regulation is within the ambit of the rules. I received a few years ago the Order of Distinction, Commander Class, and that's for development of the Jamaica Stock Exchange. And from the World Recognition, an Afro Global Award from out of Canada. And from the Rotary Club of Kingston East and Port Royal, the award in respect to my involvement in business. And quite recently to the Jamaica Observer Leadership, I was selected as one of the contenders. These awards mean a lot to me because it is persons saying that they think you are doing a good job. And from the standpoint that you do not necessarily want to be publicly recognized, that's for me really, but it encourages me. What it also does too is spur you on to see what more can I do. Though within yourself you want to do and you are driven from your own internal being, it still gives you that push to do more, especially when some of the times when you are doing it, it's not always easy because you get pushed back. You would have known about some of the struggles we had with the junior market and some of the products that you're trying to develop. It still allows you to go on to something else because not everything that you think will be a positive for your company, for Jamaica, not everybody will buy into it, and they might see things from another perspective. And, it says to you, look, while this has not gone the way, go on, move on, continue. The highlight of my career, I would really say it's the junior market. I think it has opened up so much possibility for persons. And when you look and you see how many of these businesses are doing, and you feel that, in some small way, I had a hand in it. And when persons come up to you and they said, I invested and I'm doing so well, it makes you feel good. Again, also, I think the stock market game. And when you see the younger persons are now able to feel very comfortable about this subject, it makes you feel satisfied. So as it relates to building Brand Jamaica, I think my contribution is just the improvement at the Stock Exchange Group, providing the services that are necessary to build the economy and to ensure that persons recognize that there are options to accessing capital, and one of them is accessing equity capital. When I started to work, I remember my husband saying to me then that I must know the people I work with more than the work itself, and that the knowledge of the work will come. But if you don't know the people, then you might not succeed. And that's very, very important. When you go into an organization, get to know who you are working with, get to understand them, and so also that they can understand you. Because people will make the difference. People either make the difference of not supporting you with your dreams, just the work itself, or not. And if you understand people, you also understand how to navigate difficult situations that will come about because you work with people. And it is the people why you succeed. you did not succeed by yourself. You did not. And, people would need to get over thinking that they did. You succeed because people assisted you. People worked with you. People bought into the vision that you are trying to sell, because it's a selling game as well. And if you understand people, sometimes you'll know when they're not feeling well, they are tired, what they want out of the situation as well. And I think as a result, that's the best piece of advice I have received, and I've used it throughout my career. I am twice married. My first husband died, and I'm married again. But I've always had a supportive family structure. I have 2 daughters, and they have been very supportive. And I now have a grandson, and even he is supportive of my activities. So I have been lucky. I've been lucky. My extended family, my sisters, they have also been supportive. And my mother, who is still alive, she's supportive as well. You get from them, they are the litmus tests, really, because you get the truth. There's no holds barred. They tell you just what they think. We operate from a standpoint of respect, and they share their ideas too sometimes with me. What you think about this? Probably that could work, and you feed from them. My family is really my all. Let me tell you what wealth means to me. I think the creation of wealth is important because there are various phases in one's life, and you want to ensure that you have created an environment, a wealthy or sufficient environment that in your twilight years you can afford to live comfortably. So that is wealth from a personal basis. I think it is important that from a country we create wealth for the future generation. You don't leave them with debt. And it is important at all times for individuals, families, to create wealth intergenerational so it can be passed down, so that the struggles of one society or one generation is not the struggle of another generation. And where you have that, the creativity, you can create more. You can feed your country. So wealth is definitely important, which is, I suspect, why my focus and our focus at the stock exchange is that of wealth creation.